Joining me now to discuss Herb London and Frank Gaffney. Frank, let me start with you. Somewhat of the closest I guess we're going to come to an admission that they completely blew the rise of ISIS and the threat to Americans with radical Islam.
Yeah, look, a little admission of fallibility is, I guess, all that we can expect, and certainly is welcome. While he was at it, I wish he'd recognize that his entire doctrine really has been wrong. He's been emboldening our enemies, he's been undermining our allies, and he's been diminishing our country. And that's especially true with respect to this question of Islamic supremacism, Charles. He's not just missed the whole underlying ideological drive behind it. Its adherents call it Sharia, and the jihad that it animates. It's not just that he misunderstood the Islamic State. That's just one of dozens of very dangerous jihadist groups, most of whom he's not done much about. And then, not least, it's not just about the violent kind of jihad. There's also what the Muslim Brotherhood most especially practices, which is a kind of stealthy jihad. Right. And on each of these, he's gotten it wrong. I wish he'd own up to that as well. We need a course correction for sure. Well,
I know you've talked about them actually labeling the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist group.
Well, they are, I think, by any definition of the term. They engage in terrorism, they spawn terrorism, they seek to, by their own words, destroy Western civilization from within. The amazing thing is that the Obama administration has embraced these guys, has legitimated them, empowered them, helped them actually define American policy towards all of these groups. It's insanity, really.
Herb, there's some critics, maybe cynics, critics, what have you, that says Barack Obama actually didn't misinterpret his radar, but they deliberately, he and his administration, deliberately weren't honest with the American public about what was on that radar.
Well, there's no question in my mind that the Obama administration misled the American people, in large part, as Frank points out, a misunderstanding of the Muslim Brotherhood. I think that what you see is the belief that the arc of history is working in our direction. And as a consequence, the withdrawal of American activity from world affairs is very desirable because ultimately the people that we call enemies will at some point be part of the community of nations and act in a responsible manner. This is a thoroughly misguided interpretation of world affairs, but it has become very much a part of what the Obama doctrine is. The Obama doctrine, by and large, is very naive. And if you believe the idea that Iran can be a stable nation, then you're overlooking the fact that this is the state sponsor of terrorism around the world.
Well, gentlemen, I also want to point out the role of the media in all of this. Today, Donald Trump went to The Ohio State University to acknowledge what happened there to the victims and also to thank the first responders there as well. And I read an interesting piece that says that this attack was one of the least covered jihadist attacks on American soil. Herb, what is going on here when you have something that's clearly not just newsworthy, but it should serve as a warning for everybody in this country, and the mass media drops it like a hot potato?
Well, the mass media, of course, has become shockproof to these events. And by and large, they've also tended to dismiss them as outliers, as these are lone wolves. Well, there's no such thing as a lone wolf. You have to be inspired by something. This fellow in Ohio State was inspired by Olaki. He was inspired by the ISIS doctrines. There is no doubt that what you have here and what's at play here is, of course, the media, complicit in this in large part because they accept the idea this is one of those things that simply happens. It's like an earthquake occurring in California or a storm that's occurring in Texas. Well, it's not that at all. It is inspired by an outside organization, namely ISIS, namely the Muslim Brotherhood, namely the organizations, radical militant organizations around the globe that are inspiring young people to act in terrorist manner.
Herb, Frank, thank you both very much. I really appreciate it.